You're watching Spotlight, a production of Culture in Maine, York's cultural showcase. I'm Carla Christopher, poet, publisher, and producer. Join me, along with editor, musical guru, and video extraordinaire Jay Schmuck, plus wild outdoorsman and videographer, along with technical extraordinaire Cliff Kern, and all of our friends as we go behind the scenes and get into the underground of what's really going on in the arts and cultural amazing explorations that are happening in South Central Pennsylvania. You'll see everything from art to music to dance to theater, and you'll also get to meet the people who really make it happen, find out how and why, along with some great studio performances, some amazing on-the-street footage. You'll also get the real story, and that's what we're here to shine a spotlight on. Let's go.
Chords, melody,
chords, Dominic. Chords.
So they're gonna reach in here and pick out a song, and then they're gonna pick out a style. How many different styles are gonna be in the style cover, Chris? Three styles. Okay, so we won't do anything, and then they're gonna assemble, I guess, a band to play that. So let's say you pick out Trouble by Taylor Swift in like African rhythm.
Oh.
This is Betsy Eister. She
Hi.
coordinated all the volunteers.
Well, yes.
And also a corporate sponsor, correct?
Yes.
All right, so
I'm kind of Chris's right-hand woman.
right-hand woman. Well, she's got a big long list.
It's SWR.
The itinerary I've got with everybody, where they're playing, what's going on.
If we were totally on any weird, that's not something.
Oh, baby, come on.
Love you, Mike.
All right. Funk and blues. Thank you, Miss Trixie.
Tell us about First Capital Dispensing Company, better known as the Cap. A few words.
It's the best place. You know what I always equate it to? It's like drinking in your living room.
Perfect.
Jeez, thank you, Mike. We love you.
My next guest that has landed here on the corner of Culture in Maine is one of York's newest creatives, the incredible Eleanor Justice, who is in charge of just about every new, exciting, quirky initiative that has the potential to revolutionize the entire art scene of all of downtown. So I wanted to get us here, the lovely viewers, in on the scoop before it takes off, and now we can't even get parking in downtown anymore. So it is so exciting. Every time I sit down and talk with you, I'm like, wait, York's about to do that? Wait, York's doing this? York's doing what? Now, the first way that we were able to connect was because you're involved with the York Time Bank, which is something that is conceptually people are still learning about, because that's very new to York. So what exactly, for those who haven't heard of it, is a time bank, and how does that work?
A time bank is essentially an alternative currency. It's time is money, but time is better than money. So
I would rather have time than money.
Exactly. You can always get more money, but you can't always get more time. Everybody's got the same number of hours in a day. It's an incredibly equalizing factor. And essentially, like, whatever amount of time you spend, like you spend an hour watching somebody's kids or an hour volunteering with a local community group, you get a time dollar for that hour. And you can then spend that time dollar with any other time bank member or participating organization. Like, we just connected with Creative York, and will be in the future offering classes that you can pay for with time dollars. So some of these things where it's like, yeah, sure, I'd love to take this $20 class, but I'd also like to make sure that my kids have, you know, bread and stuff in their lunches. And, you know, there's a lot of people who, myself included sometimes, where it's like a $5 entrance fee at the wrong time makes something impractical, or you have to sacrifice stuff. Whereas with a time bank, there's so many people in New York already doing so much good stuff and spending their time making the community better. This is a way that becomes more regenerative, and make sure that people don't burn out. It helps reduce the barriers. Like, it almost eliminates economic segregation, because in that context, because you're interacting with people based on like a completely equal, like, you can't change how many hours you have access to in a day. Everybody has the same amount of time.
So you volunteer your time, you tell the time bank that you volunteered this time, and then you get to use those hours, like dollars, for other places that have also joined the time bank.
Yes, and people. Like, most time banks are focused mainly on people, but the York Time Bank has been around since 2013. 2013.
Cool.
And there were a lot of members, but there wasn't a lot of activity, because it wasn't, it was an unfamiliar concept to people unfamiliar with alternative currencies and stuff like that. And when you encounter something that's like, I don't know what that is, I'm busy. And I have sympathy for that, because I certainly do that myself. But so there was like this little passionate core, and then they worked themselves into a frenzy, and then it was like, and the time bank was about to shut down for inactivity, because the people running it were spending a lot of time running it without there being a lot of benefit. And it was like, somebody needs to step up and take over, or it's going to die. And it was like, oh, wait, no, there's so much potential here. And so I accidentally became the executive director, and it was like, oh, well, all of these fun ideas.
So now, what are some of the cool projects that the Time Bank is starting to make happen to help make people more aware of it and get them involved?
Our first public one was the Penn Street Art Bridge.
Such a cool thing. Such a cool thing.
I'm so grateful. Like, I still get goosebumps. I'm so grateful that the city said yes, because they very easily could have said, no, we're not going to make it okay for everybody, whoever wants to just walk down and paint whatever they want to at any time of day in this public area. But at the same time, it's everybody's it's everybody's thing.
Right.
We actually had, because there was a weather situation that weekend, and people thought it was going to be rained out, so there were a lot of people who didn't show up to do their volunteer part, which I can understand if they thought they were going to be being blown away by heavy winds. That's okay. But we also didn't have enough supervision for the kids, and some older kids ran away with spray paint, and then spray painted all kinds of stuff on the other side of the wall that wasn't so great. But by the time that message came like 50 yards away, other people had already covered it up with positive messages. And it was like, the concept of this being self-directed and everybody being empowered to participate, the idea that it's like, well, then things will take care of themselves because we'll all be participating. it actually worked right then. And it was like, so the Penn Street Art Bridge is one thing. The Time Bank is also working on a public arts, the public sculpture project. It's going to be gallivanting goats, like the discovered ducks in Harrisburg, or cows on parade all around the world. Or there's different, there's, you know, the
I love
different
that.
resin-
Like,
it's-
here's one sculpture, but a bunch of different artists can all paint it in
Exactly.
different ways.
Yes.
And it's fun to go around the town and be like, oh, I found the Starry Night cow, and I found the cowboy cow, and I found.
Exactly.
So we'll have our own little animals
Yes,
scattered through
we
York that people
will.
can go on the search and find hunt for.
Exactly. And I love, like, one of the things I love about those projects is the variety of perspectives. I always like seeing, you know, when there's one thing, when you have a blank palette and then you have so many people expressing themselves in different ways, it's one of those things where it's like, this is like a microcosm for the world. I love it.
That is super cool.
It's going to be pretty nifty, and it's a legitimate excuse to have a unicorn petting zoo and baby goat fashion show, which is really probably the biggest reasons we picked goats instead of anything else, because we could have picked roses, but it's like,
No, but baby goats really are adorable.
yeah, they're my go-to.
They're some of my favorite Facebook videos.
When I have had too much news consumption and I'm suffering from what they call misery fatigue, I go
yes.
and look at baby goats.
Yes, baby
So-
goats make one happy.
Exactly. So more goats equals more happy, I suppose.
That's really exciting. So if people want to get involved in the Time Bank and they want to get connected with volunteering, or maybe they have a business that they're willing to let people use Time Bank dollars in,
Exactly.
how can they become a part of this alternative currency equalizing network that connects them to the people that are doing good across York County?
Yay. Couldn't be simpler. Well, okay, they could snap their fingers and it would be simpler.
Like a Geico commercial.
Yeah, exactly. The magic. But through the magic of the internet, they just go to the Time Bank, which is york.timebanks.org,
Okay.
and sign up. And it's also possible, like if you have, let's say, like your grandmother crochets the most amazing rose, you know, blankets and stuff, and she wants to show kids how to do that, you can actually serve as a guardian angel for another Time Bank member, so they don't have to know how to use a computer. That also means that, like, people don't have to own computers to be able to participate.
Nice.
And we did just switch to a different software platform recently so that it was a little less clunky on phones. It's still kind of clunky because it's a volunteer-driven organization at the national level. Not that that's a thing that makes something clunky, but there's more. There's a lot more effort and money put into design of things, like if it's a game and you're crushing candy or something, than it is if you're just, you know, peaceful revolution. I don't know. It's not a lot of dollars in that. But that's one of the things that it's very easy to just go sign up and start interacting with people. And a Time Bank, until it hits like 300 members, it can be hard to find the exact thing that you're looking for, but once you hit like the 300 mark, then it becomes like a valid, like a legit acting, like you can find almost anything you're looking for in the Time Bank. So that's like our current goal, is to get people in there, you know, get used to, like, figure out how to post a request. We've got some videos that are going to be coming out soon. We're actually shooting the last segment of our explainer, like what the hell is a Time Bank, or what the heck is a Time Bank. Sorry about that.
It's cable.
Yay. We're shooting the last segment for this explainer video with demo video tomorrow, actually. So then there'll be a little, you know, more of a like, what the heck, huh? And we'll have little tutorials on, like, how do I post a request? How do I post an offer? How do I join a team? Because we set up a bunch of different teams. So it's like, if you're interested in working on stuff having to do with kids, or working on stuff having to do with food or public art, or we even have like a team Caritas that's to do with like heavy stuff, like somebody's mom just died and they need somebody to like go out, like hardcore stuff, like the things that a community, a functioning community does. It sort of spreads that core out. It makes it possible for that to spread outwards. We also have a team Wonderland, which is for winter stuff. So there'll be like, please, everybody interested in like snowball fights and stuff like that, join it, because we got permission from the city to just, like, when it snows, and this winter's supposed to be like a doozy, Team Wonderland can just get together, organize friendly snowball fights. Let's all get together with here's shovels for everybody. You know, let's shovel this street, put the snow in the same place and build a giant snowman or snow fort, or just fun stuff. You've got those little, the catalyst people in the team to sort of start aiming everybody who's like, oh yeah, that's fun, to get in together, and then it benefits the neighborhood because you can move. Like there was a blizzard in 2010 in Baltimore and they never, ever at any point plowed our street. So we were like everybody else, like bone dry streets, and we're still like a sheet of ice that was like 4 inches thick. And it was like, if we had all come out with our shovels, this wouldn't have been a problem, but how are you going to coordinate that? Time bank. Yay.
Absolutely. That is super cool. I mean, so what makes someone decide they are moving to York and taking over the time bank? I mean, how did this become your community outreach?
Such an interesting path. I was born for this now.
I was born for time banking and community art projects and public snowball fights in York, Pennsylvania.
I had actually, and I'm sure people who know me are tired of hearing this story at this point, but I came to York in 2011 as a blueberry farmer to like be a caretaker on a blueberry farm.
Did not see that one coming.
Surprise. And the second my foot hit the ground, and this sounds so completely bonkers, but it's also so completely true. My foot hit the ground and I was like, I'm in love. Holy crap, what the hell? And it didn't make any sense except for I was stepping on the ground on a 75-acre gorgeous, like natural, and it was like, okay, but also with the York specifically. And like I didn't have a salary, but I was also living in a 75-acre paradise where, the power would go out if a bird farted. So it was like, it was very frequently like, oh my gosh, well, we can flush the toilets because we can go to the pond and get water and pour it in the back of the tank, and we don't need the pump. And like, it's really cold, it's the middle of winter, everything's covered nice and we're out of power, but we've got this giant fireplace because the thing was built before electricity.
Oh, wow.
And it was just this and I had chickens and I'd wanted chickens my whole life, and it was just so wonderful. And then the out-of-state executive who owned the property as a retirement home, maybe, like she was probably going to retire there, had some financial, like her stocks dipped or something, and she was like, never mind, I'm going to release this property, so forget the 10-year commitment that we made without a contract. And that was the first thing that made me actually sort of say my larger long-term dream out loud, because it was like, well, this place could turn into one of the things that I really want to do, like, someday if I won the lottery, or, if I don't actually like say things out loud on the internet where people could throw sticks and stuff like that. And I actually started, saying some of my larger dreams out loud, ran a crowdfunding campaign to turn the farm into a food forest, art sculpture garden that would have been run on a gift economy because, again, with the economic segregation in this country is really ridiculous. And it failed because we didn't have internet and couldn't get a platform large enough. But that also sort of set me on the course of I have a media startup at the moment, which is going to be using unscripted, branded entertainment to subsidize placemaking and community development projects, like food forests or, like a time bank. You could actually hire people to do it. But that sort of like got me on the path. And when I had to leave the farm, I had to, because the crowdfunding campaign didn't succeed. Right. I was away for York for a little bit of time, but it was also like, it really cemented like, no, York is where my heart is called to. And after that happened, I discovered that I actually have ancestors who came from other countries and died in York. Like I'm sure they moved here, had happy lives, and died, I assume, I'm guessing. But like from the 16 and 1700s, like from Ireland to York.
So you are in the soil
my
here.
DNA recognized York. And one of my ancestors actually, like the map that has the Susquehannock village on it, Augustine Herman, like I'm related to him. And it was like, holy crap. And he was like the country's first naturalized citizen. So and I still get goosebumps, but it was like, okay, it may sound a little bit woo, but I think I'm supposed to be doing this here. So it's like, if you won $1 billion lottery, what would you do? And it's like the exact same thing I'm doing in the exact same freaking place, but a lot faster. So that's how I got here, was fate. That would have been a lot quicker.
That's, I mean, that's an amazing, amazing story, though, and honestly, not an uncommon one. I think when I hear, you know, how people settled in York or why they settled in York, there is something almost mystical that just drew them to this land, to this part of the country, to this place, and this idea of creating this futuristic world of, you know, media and moving beyond brands and moving beyond a cash economy. I mean, this kind of progressive thinking, you need small, adventurous, you know, hardy places to try this stuff out. And we are a courageous and hardworking community, used to doing things in the unusual, scrappy way to see if we could make it work. So, you know, this may end up being the perfect testing ground. I mean, you're using York as a testing ground for another really cool new venture that's envisioning burlesque art as an art school.
Yes, actually, and this is a this
Only
is something
in York.
Well, actually, there's Dr. Sketchies is all over the world. There's actually a York, UK Dr. Sketchies, but now there's also a brand new, like, we don't even have the finalized regular venue set up, but a Dr. Sketchies Anti-Art School, which is burlesque and life drawing brought together with cheeky shenanigan goodness.
Love it.
And you can learn more about Dr. Sketchies at drsketchies.com, and very soon there will be a Dr. Sketchies York website. But like in the past couple of days is when I got awarded the license to do that. But essentially, that's a way just to get together with cool people, have an excuse to do sparkly things, and it will make me draw. That's also one of the ways I do stuff. It's like, I want to color more. I'm not going to do it on my own. So I'm
starting a community coloring night.
Exactly, and that the coloring coterie is like a meetup that happens in York. I'm not very good about keeping my gratitude practice, so we're doing gratitude gatherings at the York Friends meeting, and like all of these things where it's like, I want to do this. I think other people would probably like that. Why don't we do it?
So if people want to find out about the coloring gatherings and they want to find out about the gratitude gatherings, how can people get in touch with you as opposed to just the Time Bank? Or are all these things through the Time Bank?
Well, actually, the gratitude gatherings and coloring coterie are through me. And it's, for me, like, everything is connected, so I kind of forget that it's like, oh, well, if you connect with one, you're connected with all of them. But also, if you're not familiar with it, it's like, well, how the hell do I sign up for this instead of this?
Right.
So the gratitude gatherings and coloring coterie, I believe you can find the meetup groups through my personal website, which I apologize in advance is not the most advanced. It's eleanorjustice.com. Woo.
Awesome.
Or, you know, search for it on Meetup, and you should be able to find it.
That's so cool.
Yay.
I mean, you have met here one of the great hubs of York, and that, I think, is probably one of our great strengths in this area, is that we are very collaborative, we work together, we recognize that we can't survive without each other. And so you see lots of shared projects, and you see lots of exciting things where two bands will come together, or a poet and an artist, or organizations, and these people, these connectors, are the ones that help us communicate, because I mean, we have whole areas of the community, the county, that don't even have internet yet. So in some ways we are still in the past, but doing these very bold futuristic things, and so we need the people that can be the hubs that will connect the ideas and the artists and the creatives with the opportunities to express and collaborate.
The collaborative economy. Yeah.
That's something that York, with its challenges with traditional styles of communication, but with all the talent and ideas that it has, we really need that alternative connection and that alternative economy to replace the internet access or the money we don't have, but to maximize the creativity and the talent we do have.
To distribute value in a far more symmetrical way.
Amazing. So you can be a professional gratituder, practicing your gratitude in the company of others. You can be coloring and enjoying your adult meditative coloring. Maybe it's that you want to paint little baby goats and you want to help be a part of the artist movement that's going to gather us national attention for our adorableness. Maybe it's that you really want to be involved with the Time Bank. Please, EleanorJustice.com, get connected. One stop can connect you to some of the most dynamic and exciting creative things that are happening all across the county. It is an opportunity that you don't want to miss, just like Eleanor is an artist, a creative, and a connector that you do not want to miss.
Aw,
So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so
and
much.
sharing
I'm
just
so
a bit about what we can get started doing.
Yep. York is amazing. Let's do cool stuff together.
Oh man, the first time I played there was in 1985 when my ex-wife and I first came to York. And it was kind of that's before Mike had it. But I actually met Mike, my ex-wife worked at Grand Balloons, and he was in the kitchen there. That's how I first met Mike. And then later, time goes by. And Danny, Expo dude, and I were playing at the Grand Balloons on a Monday night or something, and Mike said, hey, why don't you get down here and play? So we played there like 5 years, I think. Or maybe more. Could have been more. Here's a song by Bob Dylan. Buckets of rain, buckets of tears. I got these buckets coming out of my ears. Buckets of moonbeams in my hand. You got all the love now, honey, baby, I could ever stand.
Like smoke, friends will arrive, disappear. If you want me, honey, baby, I'll be here. You know I love the smile in your fingertips. I love the cool way that you move your hips, and I love the cool way smile at me. Well, everything around you just drives me into ecstasy, for sure. Don Corn. Little red wagon, little red bike. Ain't no monkey, but I know what I like. Yeah, I like the way that you love me, strong and slow. Give it to you, baby, honey, baby, don't you know?
Life is sad, life is a bus, and all we can do is do what we must. We do what we must. You do it so well, and I'll do it for you, honey, baby, can't you tell? I'm gonna try one.
buckets of rain, buckets of tears. Got all them buckets coming out my ear. Buckets of moonbeams in my hand. You got all the love, honey, baby, I can't stand. You got all the love, honey, baby, I can't stand.
Don Corn, Dr. Mo on the bass guitar. This is, of course, my good friend.
Hey, Sansoucie, yeah.
Jagger Dan.
Buckets.
Those guys, they rock like Dawkins.
Like incredible.
The first Capitol. Oh my! The dispensing company, one of the most amazing places I've ever been. Actually, you know, like it's one of the great bars as you travel around and you run into these bars. Well, right here in York is the first Capitol, and it's among the greatest bars, I would say, on the planet. And I've had so many great nights playing music or just hanging out, drinking too much, always, and you know, just crazy fun times. I won't even get into the details because, you know, that might be a little
You did an open
much.
mic there many years, correct?
Well, it wasn't an
Or
open
not open mic,
Yeah,
I
it was
mean a standing
yeah,
gig.
Dave
I'm sorry.
and, yeah, the Dave and Dan was every Monday for 7 to 10 years.
Now, we all know that York is one of the best places in the entire world, but not all of the rest of the world always knows how fabulous York is. There are a few people, however, that are spreading our fame across international waters. And our next guest, Marakay Rogers, is absolutely one of our ambassadors across the globe. Aside from being official, it's not technically royalty, but I feel that I am entertaining royalty. So I am going to say that we have an extended family member of the royal house here. But we also have an incredible theater critic, we have a writer, we have an editor, we have someone who has contributed to the art scene that is happening in multiple, not just states and regions, but entire countries. And where do we have this gem? Right here in York, Pennsylvania. Speaking of which, how did you end up here? I mean, how does a New York theater critic and writer and editor land in York, Pennsylvania and say, this is where I need to practice my art?
See, this is one of the great things about York, because it's just the opposite way around. I moved to York after law school to become executive director of the City Human Relations Commission. And but that, I branched out. When I was in college, I had been a professional violinist. And I worked with the Potomac Symphony down in Maryland. But I had to give up the violin for law school.
Violin.
And it was,
that's actually a really tough call.
Which one was I going to spend all my time doing for some time? And I figured I was going to need to pay a mortgage, so it probably had to be law.
Okay, fair enough.
But I'd been a violinist for years, so I had that.
You had art in your blood.
And I really did. My mother was an editor. I am one of those kids who, when they had homework at school, had to turn it into my mother first, who would proceed to edit me. So I was working on my first novel in 7th grade.
Wow.
I think it's somewhere in a landfill at this point, and that's probably a good place for it to be, because it was terrible. But I always liked to write. I was on my school papers. I was writing novels even when they weren't readable. So I've always been a writer. And I've always had the stage connection. But back around 2010, 2011, I was visiting friends in Connecticut, and Broadway World, for which I write, among other places, had a review of a show that was going on at the University of Connecticut. And somehow or other, the person who was writing, realizing that apparently it was being published on Talk Like a Pirate Day, wrote an entire review in pirate.
Wow.
I read this, and I said out loud in front of other people, I could write better than this without even trying if I were going to review theater. And the response came back, you probably should.
I mean, if you're going to put it out there.
The only problem was that the friends I was saying this to were Vince Cardinal, who was the director of the summer theater series at the University of Connecticut, and the director of the show that had just been reviewed in pirate, which was actor Terrence Mann.
So they were ready for someone to write something in actual English?
Apparently. Within a month, I had been lured into writing for Broadway World.
Wow. So it really is in some ways about being in the right place and the right time.
But that's been a one thing's led to another. And so I didn't come from New York to York. From York, I have been able to spread out. And you can do that living in York. That's the thing.
That's one of my favorite things I think about this city, is that you really can get connections with people from DC and from Baltimore and from New York and New Jersey. And I mean, just all these different regions are so close and seem to have family ties. They have someone that lives here, someone that's connected here. And you have the opportunity to try stuff here because we're a smaller place. You can get started, you can get experience, and then, you know, first York and then New York and then the world.
And really there's that element of why not both. I'm very fortunate I have friends that live in Manhattan that I can stay with whenever I need to be up there. So I can go up for overnight or for 3 or 4 days at a time if I need to. I don't have the expense. And I can work up there and come back down and work down here.
Nice.
There are very few places that are situated so that you're able to do that. York is in a magnificent location for that.
So you started off writing for Broadway World, but have branched into doing professional writing and editing for a lot of different publications.
I have, and it's almost all somehow interconnected. Of course. I also write for South Central Pennsylvania Artworks, which is a Facebook group that connects and reviews theater, music, visual arts. If someone is doing it, it's all there. And the reason we put that together was that there are local things in Lancaster for theater, there are local things in Harrisburg for theater, there are local things in York for poets and writers, but there really wasn't anything to help bring all the arts together across the region. And we wanted a public group that would be seen by its members, but by virtue of being public, their friends would see it too on their Facebook pages, and it would spread out like an octopus. And so we created that. I cover things for that I'm not necessarily covering for Broadway World. For instance, I'll be covering, I just went to the world premiere, and it was in Lancaster. There are things happening in this area of an oratorio about Martin Luther.
Which is so cool.
It is. It's then going to Philadelphia, and it's branching out from there. It'll be going up to New York.
Go Lancaster, way to world premiere. I know that the Reformation is happening this year, so Martin Luther is actually hot topic right now.
Right, and the first presentation of English speaking music about Martin Luther in this area.
Seriously cool.
People just don't realize how much is going on in this area.
That's super real. And I know you've continued your work in multiple capacities with the Human Rights Commission and the Human Relations Commission, and with doing a lot of social justice and community positive growth, and with just general marketing of York through the course of your work. So I know that this is a passion for you, helping keep York in the national consciousness, especially in terms of art. But you also have over the years started creating your own work, not just reviewing others.
Right.
Are those also one thing leading to another? Is that part of the same journey, or was that a whole nother magical track?
Everything's always somehow or other interconnected. The civil rights work led to this interesting little pin I'm wearing. This is actually a medal for the Order of the Lion of Rwanda, which was given to me by King Kigeli V, who unfortunately died last fall, just about a year ago.
So you are knighted, yes?
Well, it's called Dame, but yeah, it's the same thing. But I know other people who are members of the Order of the Lion of Rwanda and other knighthoods. This Pop and Prescott Journal, which is a magazine in New York that I write for, also interviewed King Kigeli, who was possibly the
oh my
greatest.
Gosh, he's so dramatic and powerful looking.
He was pushing 7 feet tall.
What?
He was a very imposing man. He was interviewed in that issue.
Now, how does a York human rights attorney end up bumping elbows with the king of Rwanda?
The revolution. He was still king, but no longer ruling Rwanda. He was living in D.C. And
wow.
I was the executive director of the Human Relations Commission here in town. Now I'm its volunteer solicitor. I do all the legal work for it for free. I'm also on the advisory committee here in New York to the State Human Relations Commission. I'm an ambassador through URGC Green, United Refugee Green Council, which looks at sustainable answers to refugee problems.
Wow.
Which the average refugee camp is not a sustainable solution for anything.
No, not at all.
And with those and pro bono immigration work that I've done as a lawyer, some other things apparently I came to his attention.
Wow, that's amazing. So it is indeed a case of one thing leading to another and a series of connections. But how did you begin making art instead of connecting other people?
Well, with Pop and Prescott Journal and some of the other things that I do, I write for them. It's published by another dame of the Order of the Lion of Rwanda, Olga Papkovich, who is a fashion designer as well as a writer and a painter, and she lives in New York. She is originally from Russia but lives in New York now, and she is the one who interviewed King Kigeli here, but I was hooked up with her by a mutual friend who was also a dame of the Lion of Rwanda, Karen Cantrell, who of all things lives in California. She was in New York and invited both Olga and me to lunch one day in Manhattan, and we started talking, and Olga said, "You have to write for me." And so I do. Also, I've always been a writer, but doing theater reviews and other similar writing, food reviews, travel writing, things like that, had diverted me from fiction and poetry, which I'd mostly written for myself. But a couple of years ago, I got back to writing poetry as well.
What? Now, I happen to have a hint, perhaps, that you might have even brought some pieces of yours with you today. Would you be willing to share a couple of pieces with us?
I think I could do that.
Yay.
Especially because one of them is about one of my favorite things in the entire universe, which is the rulers of the universe, cats. I just happen to have a couple of kittens wandering around my house now, and studying cats, just observing them, teaches you a lot about life.
I love it.
And so I had to think about what the cats were doing when they were sitting in the windows watching outside they weren't trying to get, I realized they weren't trying to get outside. They were just proclaiming their dominion over everything they saw outside. And little living being reaching for the sky, or perhaps it's just the spider on the branch or blowing leaves. You sit silently, staring through glass panes, wondering if the world is a giant television outside your walls. Do you see me as your mother now, or am I a giant cat, clumsy and furless, gracious and witless, or perhaps just a fool like the dog across the street? Through the window you peer, living never outside this house, your kingdom is immense, and you are satisfied with adventure to be found within its walls and from observing your empire. Would that I could be so satisfied with my lot. My kingdom all I survey, delights at every turn, and new surprise arising constantly. But men are not content to live their lives, grow restless, weary, exploring strange new worlds, and tearing them apart against their nature. Grant me the grace, then, to be like my cat and live in wonder. Welcome every small thing as fresh new joy, and cherish every sound and moment in the present. Seeing the world afresh each day as shiny toy that gives the chance to play.
Love it. My cats also rule the kingdom, so I am very much familiar. But
realizing that cats realize they rule everything, but don't feel the need to conquer and shred
destroy.
it.
You can rule it without destroying it, as a powerful message for today. And today is actually a very special day. For those at home who are not aware, we are actually filming on what will become at sundown the Jewish holiday of Rosh Hashanah. So we are actually about to enter into a very important holy season for those of the Jewish faith, a brand new year.
Yes, it is. Happy New Year to everyone, even though this will be broadcast afterwards.
Indeed.
But Rosh Hashanah is a very traditional theme for Jewish writers, and this year I just saw things a little differently after hearing actress Mayim Bialik talking about Rosh Hashanah and what it represented for her, and how it was a day for her to really reflect and wake up from all the things she had slid into doing for the past year. And how we slide into habits and we need someone to shake us up and to wake us and remind us we don't have to be like that. And after hearing that, when I sat down, I had a few thoughts and they turned into this. The candle's lit, bread sits upon the table, braided round like the sun that travels through the sky till nighttime comes, and the moon's light calls the start of holy day. Fresh wine is poured, sweeter than kisses mothers give to babes, and sweeter yet the apples and the nectar of the bees that tell the world the new year has begun. The birthday of the world, we're told it is. A birth in autumn as the leaves die around us, and apples fall fat and red, ripe on the trees and riper in our mouths, the crunch of them so like the crunch of leaves under our feet as we walk to synagogue to hear the shofar's call. Wake up, it cries, wake up, for humans walk through life as those asleep. We miss the flow of days, the rhythm of the year, the turning of the wheel of life, cocooned with easy chairs and earbuds and movies on demand. It prays us, stop. Be watchful, human. Use your eyes that God gave you to see, to understand, to comprehend things far outside yourself. Hearken to my shrill and piercing cries. Come find your senses, live upon this land, and free both mind and body from their shelf.
Both mind and body from the shelf. Wow. So what is this new year going to bring for you?
Hopefully a good many things. I'm starting on some new writing ventures as well. I've just begun writing for, as I said, for South Central Pennsylvania Artworks, as well as for Broadway World, and I hope we'll be able to cover a great deal more with visual art in the area than has been going on, and also we hope encouraging some dance. There is dance in this area, and people do not realize how much of it there is. It's not just Central Pennsylvania Youth Ballet's Nutcracker every year at Hershey. But I am also writing for The Georgian, which is a British expat magazine in California by the Royal Society of St. George. I was an English history major in college, even though I was a musician, so it gives me an opportunity to expand. And through that, I've been asked to write for a magazine in London, Crown and Country, which writes about royal history. And so right now, a nice Jewish girl is working on a history of royal Christmases.
Interesting.
It really is. What people think of as Christmas these days didn't start till Queen Victoria. It was celebrated very differently by the English in the Middle Ages and by Henry VIII. So I have been learning the strangest details about royal Christmas feasts. I do not think I'm quite up for rice with red wine, spices, and honey cooked like a soup, but it could be interesting.
Yeah, that's not necessarily on my Christmas cooking list, but I'm down to try anything once.
I haven't found out more than the ingredients, so I'm not quite sure what it's supposed to be presented like, but there's some really fascinating recipes from the 1400s that I've now stumbled across, and I'm not too sure most of them are happening in my kitchen.
So a lot of writing and traveling and new learning and new adventure for you in the upcoming year.
I certainly hope so, even though it all comes back to bringing it back to York.
I love it. Well, York is definitely lucky to have you. And so are all the artisans and the creatives that are doing work in York that you're helping bring to the broader consciousness. Now, you can go on Facebook and look up South Central PA Artworks, and when you go into that Facebook group, you can find out tons of what's going on in the art world. So make sure that you go and find out whatever you're into, whether it's visual art, theater arts, dance. It's happening right here in South Central Pennsylvania. It's happening on this show. It's happening in venues across Harrisburg, Lancaster, Gettysburg, and of course, York, Pennsylvania. Now, thanks to people like Marakay, it's getting out there more and more, but it is people like you supporting the arts, participating in the arts, and being fans and friends of the arts that's going to keep them alive for the next generation. So keep on making and loving art, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for joining us on another amazing episode of Spotlight, a production of Culture in Maine, York's cultural showcase. We want to hear your ideas, and we want you to be a part of the show. Whether you're an artist or a fan, send us an email to cultureinmaine@gmail.com. Check us out on the web at wrct.tv, or make sure to find all of our past episodes on YouTube at youtube.com/White Rose Community TV. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great week. We'll see you soon, right here on the corner of Culture in Maine.